I want to talk about a myth that some people believe around what it means to take psychedelic or entheogenic medicines. I would like this video to be helpful for those who either work with clients or people, let's say in a coaching or a therapy situation, and you'd like to understand why they're doing it or what this really means, or if you are someone who's interested in taking these plant medicines and you may have this myth in your mind as well. So the myth is that taking these is a shortcut, or even worse, avoidance. That people take these in order to kind of skip the growing process, and just kind of get the benefit, get them to just click and it's done, and you no longer feel the trauma or the pain, or are somehow different quickly right after the ceremony or the experience, right? Or that you take them in order to sort of wipe it all out, and let's just forget it ever happened kind of thing. And that's a myth. It's just simply not true. There is no shortcut to healing. There is no shortcut. You can't avoid it. And in fact, the plant medicines put you closer to the things that you need to heal. My ayahuasca journey felt like a bunch of years of therapy in one night. But if you think about it, I didn't just plop myself down in the middle of Mexico one day and go, let's see, what can I do today, right? There was a lot of prep involved. There was a lot of, there was a diet involved. There was a lot of intentionality. There was travel, which you would think is just travel, but it's really about a pilgrimage of sorts, right? I'm making a journey to get there. So my retreat was in December. I felt called to it when I was invited at the beginning of August. So, right, so there's that process. So August, September, October, November, 4.5 months or so, 4 months, I was preparing, right? There's a diet involved in the last few weeks before you take the medicine. So that's also part of the preparation. And then there's, of course, integration, which happens after, which is where you take in all of the insights that you received, all of the ways that you've seen yourself differently afterwards. And, unless you do that integration, that journey, it will have been for nothing, almost. The medicine does work within you, so I don't actually mean that it would be for nothing, but you certainly would not be utilizing the messages, and you would not be healing yourself if you did nothing. If you just kind of said, oh, well, the medicine did what it did in me and now whatever, right? Like, you actually have to do the work after. It's the intention with which you take the medicine that makes all the difference. When some kids take mushrooms and go to a concert, that is not a ceremony, right? There is no healing there. And in fact, people go into terrible, difficult experiences there because, the medicine just kind of plops you in there and deal with it, right? Whereas you could still have a challenging journey if you prepare, but it's happening in a very different energy, in a very different context when you have the intention of receiving it for healing. So I will tell you what the shortcut is, if there is such a thing. It's not actually a shortcut, but what the medicines do, and they do it in different ways depending on the medicine, whether it's mushrooms or ayahuasca or huachuma or bufo or kambo, they all do it differently. But what they do is they will point out to you where your defenses are. In other words, how have you protected yourself from direct experience of yourself, from direct experience of others in a connected way? Where have you closed yourself off? Where have you blocked your heart? Where have you kept yourself small? They will point it out, and some of them, from what I understand, will actually lift those defenses for a little bit. so that you can experience yourself and the resulting feelings of experiencing yourself in this different way. Like, what would you be like if your heart wasn't open? If your heart was open, what would you be like if it wasn't closed? What would it be like? I experienced this with Huachuma. And this was after ayahuasca, a couple of days. We've had lots of integration. The ceremony space was there. The intentions were there. And then I went into the medicine and it put me in my heart. And I felt safe enough to stay there for a couple of few hours, because I was also watching the facilitators, be in their hearts. It felt safe to experiment with that. I felt held and loved. But I don't think I could have done that on day one. I think it was the preparation with ayahuasca that, allowed me to then step into that space. But initially, right, if your heart is very closed, whether you think it is or not, right, is what you'll see, is what you'll struggle with, right? So that is it's not a shortcut, I'm just kidding, but this is what the medicine will do for you if you approach it with that reverent, ceremonial, respectful, sacred attitude and bring in your intentions, bring in your genuine desire to learn about who you are, to open up to yourself, to connect, to see what is possible beyond living in your head. And even if you've done lots of work on yourself, we are kind of conditioned to live in our heads most of the time, right? And so even if you've done a lot of work on yourself, you will still find spots and areas where, one of your defenses is going to be to intellectualize, to be in your head, to think about it, to go, okay, tears are coming out of my eyes. It must be because da-da-da-da happened, or I must be grieving. Like, how many of us want to pre-analyze it before we feel it, right? That's living in your head, right? So I hope that this kind of dispels a little bit of kind of misunderstanding around it. Hopefully for those of you who are interested in the medicine, obviously do all of your research, speak to someone who's done it, speak to someone who organizes this, really, really get all of your questions answered, do a lot of research. And if you are someone who is not interested in doing that, that's fine, of course. You need to be called in order to do it. But if you do have clients who do it, I hope that you understand them a little bit more deeply and maybe can help them prepare, right? They are preparing, they are trying to see what it's like to be a different version of themselves that they know is possible, that they want to open up to, that they want to understand better, that they want to know why is so difficult for them to reach, right? I'll say again, ayahuasca for me was multiple years of therapy in one night that I'm still unpacking, and it was a challenging journey. It was not like unbearably difficult. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't dealing with anything like that. I was dealing with my own trauma that was coming up in a very embodied way, right? And I had talked about that trauma a lot in therapy for years. I was in analysis for 12 years. A lot of it was multiple times a week, intensive, right? I talked about it. But in the medicine, I was able to feel it and experience it without the defense of intellectualizing it. And it was hard because it was hard for me going through it, right? But when I was going through it, I wasn't able to feel it fully. That's what we all suffer with, right? That's why trauma stays in the body, is because it was not safe to feel it. So then I was able to feel it, and now I'm able to process it in this completely other way. And I tell you, I was very angry about it because I've had so much therapy and because I kind of like know what I'm doing. I'm a therapist myself, right? And then here I am in my primal trauma going, really? Like all that therapy didn't get to it? And yes, it did to some degree, but the medicine got me deeper, got me to really, really feel it. And I felt safe doing it. So thank you for listening. Please, I welcome your comments and I welcome your thoughts and feelings about this. Get engaged. Think about this. If you've gotten this far into the video, there must be something here for you, and I would love to know what that is. So thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video.